you guys, what's going good in your life right now? What's going really well, professionally or personally?
Well, I'll go first. I came on to LBO full-time 3 weeks ago, and I have to confess it's been really nice to go into the office a day a week or two and just work with one of the other LBO folks. It's just terrific. It's a nice, not that everybody likes to get up and get dressed and drive into the office every day, but it's nice to be around some of the people that I work with, and it's a little bit of an edging toward normalcy. So I appreciate that.
Sure, I can go. So I'd say professionally, we have a couple of new hires that are coming in that I'm really excited about. So that'll be fun. So just watching the firm grow. I'm only on month 3 at Stock Legal. And I'm not from the law world. So it's really interesting for me to learn all this. My background's in startup companies and tech. So it's interesting.
Yeah, business is going well for me. Starting to really pick up. Personally, the same's happening for Jessica. She's been able to find a bunch of potential clients and actual clients recently. So I think people are getting back to normal, and it's working out for us.
That's awesome. Justin, did you want to share?
Yes, I feel like I finally, my firm has finally hit its stride. Now we can't stay there. We've got to grow. Mm-hmm. And I'm so thankful to have legal back office to help make that happen. But we're doing better than we ever have before. I've got a great person that works with me who helps with a lot of the admin stuff. And I feel like we're really hitting a rhythm.
That's awesome. Thanks for the plug. I did not plant Justin to make a plug. Personally, I'm very excited because I got a new car yesterday. As like vain and silly as it is, practically speaking, my kids just could not keep their hands off each other from like whacking each other in the back seat. And I had a smaller vehicle. I have 4 children and have a 5-seat car, right? The 3 in the bench, and then my front row, and then obviously the driver's seat. And so, sweetie, you have to take this in a different room, baby. Okay, she's trying to watch cartoons behind me. Can you guys hear that? The cartoons. I need you to take it in a different room, baby. Okay, go ahead. So anyways, I have a 3rd row vehicle now. So I am very excited about that from a practical perspective. It's like, I mean, just having it for 2 days, it's already helped like cut down on the fighting. There's like 0 fighting. I mean, usually there is some sort of fight on the way to school every day. And the 2 days I've dropped them off at school, there's been 0 fighting.
Nice. What'd you get?
I got it at the BMW dealership of West County, which is kind of like a haul from where I'm at, but someone had recommended that to me. So you'll see it. I'm going to come into the office tomorrow. So anyway, so I've been working from home mostly this week. So that's pretty exciting. And professionally, positive things as we're still growing too, which is a lot of fun. So as you all know, as business owners, it's fun, but also challenging, right? There's always like that next phase of growth and how you need to pivot or, modify what you're doing in order to accomplish that growth. So awesome. Thank you all for sharing. There are so few of us on the call today. Let's dive in because I think we won't even be on a full hour because there's so few of us. Let's talk about the reputation in our country of lawyers. I mean, how do you all feel about those statistics? Agree, disagree, surprised, not surprised?
Well, again, I'm new to the law world, but I'm not surprised, maybe because of that. So I'm learning that at least at our firm, like that we are way more approachable than I think other firms are. At least I've heard that from many of our clients, and then also the new staff that we're trying to hire. But I'm not surprised by that number at all.
Yep. Well, I think if you want to talk about the perception and what people think, you have to start off with what's creating it. And right out of college, I was a journalist for 5 years, and so I'm a little bit more of a geek and paying more attention to the media and how things are portrayed in the media and how things are ignored in the media and everything else. And a lot of this is driven by what you see in the media on lawyers. I mean, you watch anything on almost anything on stereotype that they apply to lawyers that attorneys in smaller firms, and stereotype is just a stereotype. It's not Thompson Coburn, who were fantastic people, and they had every right to be arrogant, awful, stereotypical lawyers. And but I think a lot of it is driven by what appears in the media. They like that stock character of the jerk lawyer, and I'm not sure how you fix that, but I think that having lawyers who are in smaller firms, who are involved in their community, who are approachable, and Katie, you really hit on that really well. That whole approachable thing, the not wearing of the $700 custom suit, billing people for 6 minutes on a phone call, those sorts of things that I know that Mike and Justin and our other clients do. Those help to dispel it. We can't clean up the world, but we can clean up our own corner of it. So, off my soapbox now.
That's a good point. I love it.
It's funny. I was at an event recently, and I was talking to somebody, and we got into the conversation. Well, what do you do? And I say I'm an attorney, and this person runs their own company, and they instantly went into how much they spent on attorneys last year, and obviously didn't feel they were getting the value for that. And so we talked, and exactly those points you brought up, Mark. Like, that's not how I operate. I tried to bill flat fee or really predictable as much as possible, and it's amazing how far that goes, particularly for business owners. Just that predictability. I mean, that's the name of the game in business, is predictability and managing cash flow and that sort of thing. So to have a business practice that really fits with how they operate a business really goes a long way to showing that I understand where they are and I can meet them there.
That's a really good point on predictability, Mike. I remember back in the '08 crash, right at the end of that, and for the next 2 or 3 years, I could not believe how many RFPs we were doing. And I, reading between the lines and talking to people at the law firms, really what they were looking for is exactly what you described, Mike, which is predictability of spend. They were actually taking more like a purchasing manager attitude toward acquiring legal services, which is not really, maybe from a fiscal standpoint in the near term, it's a good idea, but it's not a good long-term plan. But they were really, really scratching and clawing. I had 1 year I did over 90 RFPs, responded to 90 RFPs, and they were all looking for that predictability of spend. And anybody who's even touched litigation knows that you can't predict what litigation is going to cost. I mean, there's just no way. On the corporate side, you can a little bit better, but litigation, a lot depends on who's on the other side and how much of a battle they want to have. So, but you're right on the nose, Mike. I agree with you totally on that.
I thought I might add too to the communication piece, not just the fixed fee, like that's at the beginning, right? Like that's the communication at the beginning. So expectations are set, but the communication all along the way about the work that's being done and the value that's being added. Because I mean, I've seen it multiple times. I mean, even at Stock Legal, where someone paying a fixed fee of $20,000 is like elated, right? And can't even imagine working with anyone else. Another person paying a fixed fee of $2,500 thinks they were totally gypped, right? And it's because there wasn't a communication all along the way of the work that was being done and the value that was being added. So I think that that's a a worthy sort of solution is the communication up front, but then also that consistent communication, throughout the whole case, and them really feeling like they can see that you're doing the work and adding the value instead of like a set it and forget it, I'll just reach out to you when I'm done sort of thing. And I think that's another gap, especially in the fixed fee world, because the fixed fee world has become a lot more popular over the last 5 to 10 years. And especially since you guys have probably all been targeted on social media by these legal consultants that are former or current lawyers that built a fixed fee practice of over 7 figures, and they have the formula for you to do the same, right? They're everywhere. I could name 10 right now that do that exact same thing. Justin, this is just a note for you doing estate planning. Here's my prediction and my concern is with this push by all these consultants trying to push lawyers to be estate planners, because estate planning is quote unquote easy money, right? You would probably beg to differ. But they're selling it. They're selling lawyers on estate planning being easy money. I think estate planning is going to become very saturated and very hard to compete in the next 5 years. So you're really smart to be building your practice now and keeping that communication with your current clients once they become your project's done with them, keeping that connection with them so they keep sending work your way is going to be really critical, I think, to law firms growing, because I worry about that. But I think that's where you differentiate is that communication throughout the case, because not all the fixed fee people are doing that. They are more of a set it and forget it, sort of approach. So I thought
Amy, I'm always interested to see how many people call the firm, leave a voicemail, and when I call them back, they're surprised. Thank you so much for calling me back. And that took me off guard. This is a service industry. Why am I not going to call you back? But they're used to their requests for information just kind of going into a black hole.
Yep.
And if they hear from an attorney, it's their lucky day. So just by doing just the most basic customer service and communication, you can set yourself apart.
I was trying to look up.
Right on that, Justin.
I can't remember it, but the Clio report from not from 2020, but from 19 had a statistic in it, because I don't know if you guys ever read that legal industry trends report, but it's very good. They surveyed 1,000 of their clients, not surveyed them. They tested them. They hired an outsourced group to call these 1,000 law firms or email them whatever their website said to do. They were testing the intake process, and it was something stupid. It was 60% of all the firms never even answered the phone or called back or responded to the email or responded to the email appropriately. Some people have auto responders on, but that doesn't do anything, right? That number is insane. Just by answering the phone or returning the voicemails, you can improve your client retention significantly. Yeah. Who would have thought something so basic, right?
Well, that non-returning the phone calls, that means you're either arrogant, incompetent, or apathetic, and none of those things do you want to attached to your law firm.
Well, I think the other thing that happens too is lawyers get so busy. You can all relate to this, right? And I think that adds to people not trusting lawyers or thinking they're jerks. As you're so busy, you're so stressed out, then it's not just the frequency of communication, but how you're communicating, right? If you're always kind of on edge or stressed or can't really get to things, or clients feel like you're always just fitting them in, to their schedule, that doesn't make them feel good either. And so if you don't have the right administration or infrastructure in place to answer those calls, you probably are totally strung out and working like crazy, and you just can't physically get to the calls. I think that happens a lot too. It's not because of bad intent. It's just there's no physical capability of handling it all.
Well, I worked with a lawyer who had exactly that problem, and Jamie, you're exactly right on that. And what she did was she had her legal secretary return the call or make a call responding to the email and just say she's really swamped right now, she's busy, but she will call you back, and the secretary would make an appointment and put it on the calendar. It might not be for a day or 2 or 3, but at least the client or the prospective client got an immediate response and knew when the communication was going to happen, and that went really, really well for her.
Yeah, that's good. What else? What are some other thoughts on how we can practically reshape this negative reputation?
What are your thoughts on pro bono? Is that effective, do you think, or?
No.
I
mean-
think go ahead, Jamie. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's a difference between pro bono and going the extra mile for what they're paying you for. I had a prospective client call, and I work with real estate investors a lot, and he had an investment that was just not a very good one, and there was no two ways about it. And so he was on the call expecting me to try to sell him to use me anyway. Let's still go through the process like this is a great investment. And when I stopped and said, I just don't think this is probably the direction that you're wanting to go. Let's figure out an exit strategy for you. And just took a few minutes. He ended up engaging me long enough to learn more about what was going on with the property. So I think just you build trust when you make it about them. And if you can quickly, and it's a skill, I've had to try to acquire it quickly, give them something that shows them where they can go, even if it's not working with me. But I'm not going to do all that for free, but I can point them in the right direction.
I do think that's huge because it's being transparent about, what you're capable of, what you're willing to take on, what you have the capacity for, right? It's all those things, right? And the fact that you're willing to refer to another lawyer, I think is huge, that you're not trying to like take on more or take on something you don't know or whatever. I was going to offer the idea because, we have done this at Legal Back Office. I think it's worked really well, but it is very sincere. It's not insincere. If you're insincere about what I'm about to say, humanity will read through it. And that's seeing your clients as your friends. Because when I think most clients of legal services, they see a hierarchy happening, right? They see lawyers up here and I'm down here. And so there's always going to be this gap, I think, in perception until we can see eye to eye with our lawyer friends. And you won't see eye to eye if you don't truly see them as a friend, and someone that's on your same level, because there is no lawyer likes it when a client walks in and says, I was just Googling this the other day, right? Doctors are the same way, like, well, I was on WebMD, and then it's like this huge eye roll. I'll never forget, and I'm a pretty educated person. I know I don't have an MD, but having a rub with a pediatrician just because I had a different view, not a different, I wasn't debating medicine. It was just, I'm a human who has a different goal in life, right? For my kids. And the way that I was talked to was just so pretentious because there was like, well, you don't know this sort of thing. There's no way you could ever know it. Instead of oh man, I totally appreciate where you're coming from. Yeah. I have other patients that feel that same way. And as a parent myself, I totally get why you would feel, right? There's a way that you can communicate with these individuals and make them your friends. One of our clients, I think, does this really well, maybe too well, because then she gets so invested and so emotionally invested in her cases. Like it's hard for her to like get up out of them, when it's negative emotions. But when your clients do feel like your friends, you can ask them about, how's your spouse doing? Oh, how's your kid doing? Or are you going on a vacation this summer, right? Or, those sorts of things, right? Those are we do that with our team members to create good culture. Why wouldn't we do that with our clients to perpetuate that good culture? So that was one thing I was going to suggest, was the idea of making your clients your friends. And I'm not saying you're texting with them memes over the weekend or something like that, although that could happen too. I'm just saying, and having them refer to you by your first name, right? Even that informality, or you calling them Mr. Smith and insisting that they call you John, right? Like, oh no, Mr. Smith. It's like that, you're giving that respect. And if anything, you're elevating them, right? So I thought I would offer that too, as a way for us to sort of like try to change the narrative around lawyers and how humanity feels about them.
Yeah. Keeping in touch when there's not an active matter is a good thing to do too.
Oh yeah, that is a good idea.
It doesn't take a lot
very
of time.
True.
That's a really good idea. That goes back to, I think it was 2 weeks ago. I think I shared, one of my clients went back through all of his old clients and scheduled a coffee lunch or happy hour with all of his former clients. It was ridiculous. He did like 60 of these in a month or something. And in 100, he got more than 60 cases out of those breakfast, coffee, lunch, happy hours, because, he really was just checking in to see how, and he's a personal injury lawyer, right? So it's a little bit, there's a natural, how are you doing sort of conversation there. But I see that in estate planning too. I also can see that with businesses. Hey, how's your business going? And in Mike's case, Mike works with all companies. And he ended up getting more than 100% referrals for people going through something that he could help them with out of those breakfast, lunch, happy hours. And the purpose was just to check in and see how they're doing. So I think that's great, Mark. That's like, I'm getting with you because I care about you as a person and, want us to stay in each other's lives, but there's a lot to be gained from that.
Yeah, there is. I had one at Thompson Coburn, and we started where he set up Google News alerts on a lot of his clients. And when something interesting would come up, even if he hadn't had an active matter in a year, he'd pick up the phone and he'd call and say, hey, I saw that you guys are doing this. How's that working out? And the clients loved it. And he actually got work out of it. And he wasn't even asking for work. He was just genuinely concerned about his clients.
That's an incredible idea, Mark.
That's smart. Yeah.
Mike, do you do that?
I actually used to do that at EY. I don't do it now because most of my clients are honestly too small to have news stories written about them. Or they're in an industry where they're just not going to have something written about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely used to do that at EY.
Yeah, in those cases, what you can do is keep an eye out for like new legislation, regulations, or market conditions that might affect those people, and just say, "Hey, I was wondering how you're doing with this new tax or whatever it is," and just say, just check in on them, make sure they're okay. So,
Smart.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, Katie,
I just thought
that's a really good idea for Stock Legal. Also, that's how you could empower your lawyers that are trying to do more on client development, is get them that HubSpot access that they need, and they can set up the Google alerts around their specific clients that they're trying to grow business with.
Yeah.
That's like such a good idea, Mark.
Yeah, that's really great. We're also Dan and I are working on figuring out how to turn our corporate clients into estate planning clients and the reverse.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mean this to be a sales conversation, but I think it's fair, right? It's fair to say, like, as people see lawyers in a more positive light, they're going to be more drawn to wanting to do work with them, And I mean, all of our clients, like even Carmody to a certain degree, which Carmody's not a client, but Chris attends regularly from Carmody. They're about 60 lawyers, 50, 60 lawyers. So while they're a decent size, they're still not massive. I mean, they're still serving similar client sizes and business sizes to like a Stock Legal, for example, So I think, and there's still like an emphasis on individual lawyers, assisting with business development. And I do think, there are some firms that have gotten to be that size, like a Sandberg, I think is another example where they've tried to create a culture, that is inviting and attractive. Sorry, Justin, I'm leaving you out. I'm mentioning St. Louis firms that you don't even know, but trying to create a culture that is attractive to clients, and how important it is to be hiring lawyers that mirror that culture is really important. Because now I used to love Joe Cordell used to attend or do a little segment at every new hire orientation. I think the volume just went up on the cartoons. They're migrating. He used to attend every new hire orientation and do like a brief segment, which I just thought was really cool that he took the time to do that. And he would say, okay, you all now, our reputation as a firm depends on all of you, regardless of your last name and it being on the door or not being on the door. And your reputations are attached to each other. And so think about like Google reviews, if a lawyer is fouling something up in Georgia, and there's someone in Texas that's Googling and trying to find a lawyer, and they see all these negative reviews of the lawyer in Georgia, but it's all associated with the brand, we're all now tied together and dependent on each other. So I mentioned that as you guys are hiring other lawyers, keeping that in mind, that You want to hire people that really are going to perpetuate this shift in the reputation, but also be in alignment with what you want and the culture that you're trying to create. And staff, that goes for staff too, obviously, not just lawyers. No one wants to talk to an unhappy legal assistant or office manager.
Including
done with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Jamie, you hit the nail on the head with culture. Just being as intentional with culture as you are with systems and processes and business development, they all go hand in hand.
Yep, they definitely do. Well, I think this has been a good discussion. I think there's no point in belaboring it for sure. I really appreciate, all of you hopping on in your time and in the sharing, and I hope you got something out of it. I know I definitely did. I know our marketing team sets up Google alerts around our clients, so we know when something pops up that we need to promote. What I hadn't thought, I was actually using that from a sales perspective, right? Like the salesperson reaching out and saying to our clients, oh, I saw this, congrats, right? So I think that was smart. Thanks for sharing that. So I hope you all have a lovely day, the rest of your week.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy.